Today we'll be recapping the manhwa, The Young Lady Tames the Male Leads. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it really helps us a lot. Enjoy! Our story starts with Murr, a normal girl who woke up one day as the Lady Murr of the Marquess Serron, in a totally different world from the one we know. Luckily, she's been reborn as a member of the nobility. She has money, good status, and a talent for swordplay. Naturally, her life has been easy so far. I mean, how lucky can you get? As she grew and learned more about her surroundings, it one day dawned on Murr that the Goldhark Empire in this world actually came from a novel. For better or worse, Murr was not reborn as a particularly important character. Though if you ask me, that's a good thing. Who wants to be part of some noble quest and get thrown around by bad guys? The Emperor of Goldhark has two children, Nicholas and Nina Ina. The daughter, Nina for short, wanted friends, so her father, the Emperor, created the Imperial Kindergarten so that she could get to know a small number of children from noble families. Murr never thought she would be chosen, but she does have some noble friends from very important families, one of whom is Jake Tion, the only son and heir of the Tion Duke family. In the novel, Jake is sort of like a supporting actor, a friend of the male lead. One day, he visits to tell her that they are going to the kindergarten together. Murr, a girl who was an adult in her past life, really doesn't want to go to kindergarten. But in front of a cute, smiling kid like Jake, how could she refuse? The next day, Murr visits the Imperial Palace, sweating buckets. Her father, the Marquess Serron, accompanies her to meet the Emperor and Empress, the parents of the story's protagonist, the Crown Prince Nicholas. The story's villain, however, is none other than his sister Nina. But at this point in time, she's just 6 years old. She can't be that bad, right? From the moment Nina walks in, it's clear that she's already well on her way to becoming the vicious character from the book. Prince Nicholas, by contrast, is very quiet and reserved. He sits down and immediately starts reading a book about economics. Wait, isn't that a little advanced for a 6-year-old? This kid must be super smart. Or maybe just boring. Murr tries to encourage a friendly conversation, but it's a little awkward. Nicholas is already arrogant about his intelligence, and Nina seems to only want a friend of equal status, which Murr is definitely not. After the initial meeting flops, Murr decides to make a better impression on the other kindergarten children. She asks the kitchen maids for help so that she can prepare lots of sweets to win the other kids over. I know that would definitely work on me. Who could say no to all that caramel? Jake is there bright and early in the morning for their first day of kindergarten. I guess he's so fond of Murr that he came to wake her up. Aw, that's a little weird. He's even complimentary about her socks and the ugly yellow dress she puts on. Wait, does she want to make a good impression wearing that? Okay, girl, good luck. They arrive together to find the other children waiting for them at the kindergarten. Those two mysterious figures turn out to be a boy with red hair and a little blonde girl. Not just any little blonde girl, the female protagonist of the novel. This is Alice, the second daughter of the Duke Rose, a family of famous fairy summoners. The red-headed boy is also an important character. He's the second male lead, Cedric, who seems kind of like a douche, actually. But this is 10 years ahead of the novel's beginning. Why are all the principal characters already assembled? While Murr is trying to work it out, the children are joined by their governess, Countess Margaret Edmund. She asks them to call her Margaret, but Princess Nina immediately announces she's going to call her teacher and orders the others to do the same. She's a bit intense, that one, isn't she? They go around the room introducing themselves, but every time Murr tries to speak up, she's quickly cut off by children of higher status. Eventually, Jake introduces himself, and then she's the only one left. She introduces herself politely and then reveals the caramels she brought for the class. The teacher commends her for being so sweet, while Nina just stands up and demands a bag to herself straight away. I hope this Miss Margaret will teach them some manners soon. Somehow, despite not knowing who the other two kids were going to be, Murr has prepared a little ribbon to match everybody's eyes. She hands them all a bag of candies, and when it's Alice's turn, she's so touched that she starts to cry. Remembering her character from the book, Murr blocks her from the view of the others and even offers her a handkerchief. Her goal was to make friends with everyone and to use the caramels as a kind of friendship bribe. But that red-headed Cedric is already causing problems. When he doesn't see Jake with a bag of caramels, he makes fun of him, thinking he's been left out. Then, Jake pulls out his extra big bag of sweets and claps back. He says he doesn't know who Cedric is, but Murr and him have been friends since birth. I guess in Kid World, it's like marking your territory. Something tells me those two aren't going to be getting along anytime soon. As if to further prove his and Murr's closeness, Jake offers her one of his caramels, feeding it himself. Okay, buddy, I think they get it. Everyone knows you guys are besties. Since their first teacher was a no-show, Miss Margaret dismisses them early for lunch. And boy, is it fancy. I suppose it only makes sense for the Imperial family to pull out all the stops, but can 6-year-olds really appreciate fine dining like this? One person who can appreciate it is Murr. She enjoys the food so much that the others sort of stare at her while she's digging in. As usual, her loyal golden retriever Jake is there to reassure her that she still looked cute. The kids go home in separate carriages, although Cedric and Alice go together, since they're actually engaged to be married one day. Their personalities seem to be grating a little bit. Cedric is using informal language and trying to be all cheeky with Alice, who doesn't seem to like him. Which is fair enough. We've hardly met him, and I already dislike that kid. He tries to take the caramels Murr gave her, since Alice hasn't eaten them yet. So it's kind of sweet to see her treasuring them so closely and refusing to give away a present from a friend. At least the caramel tactic worked on one person. When Murr gets home, her parents want to hear all about how things went at kindergarten. After telling them about the success of her candies, they decide to reward her with a trip to a special dessert shop in town. And guess who's there when they arrive? It's Jake! Because apparently those two are literally joined at the hip. Actually, he came to get her a surprise gift, though I don't know if it's much of a surprise since he ended up telling her about it. He is the ultimate golden retriever character, this kid. Over at the Imperial Palace, it looks like Murr's attempts to make friends were more successful than she realized. While getting ready for kindergarten the next morning, Princess Nina can't stop thinking about the red ribbon around the caramels Murr gave her. Since she said her eyes look like rubies, now all the princess wants to wear is bright red. Her brother Nicholas remains unimpressed, however. When she shows him her dress, he seems surprised, mainly because he can't understand how one random compliment from a marquess's daughter has had such an influence on her. Ugh, is this guy really the male protagonist? He's really not very nice. The next morning, Murr is the first to arrive at kindergarten. Today, they actually have a class. Their teacher, Perlade, is going to teach them how to draw. They start by drawing each other and pick names out of a box to see who will get who. Murr picks out Nina's name, so now she has to do an incredible job if she wants to keep earning the favor of the Imperial family. Somehow, Jake and Cedric got each other, which they are obviously very unhappy about. And the male and female protagonists pick each other because, of course they do. Alice drew Murr's name and apologizes in advance because she says she's not very good at drawing. Honestly, that's pretty relatable. I feel like you can never get it right when you draw someone else's face. But Murr assures her that she'll be happy no matter how it turns out, so the children get to work. Everyone is very focused, especially Murr, who's doing her best to please the princess. When they're done, they share the pictures with each other. For all her nervousness, Alice's drawing turned out really cute, and Nina seems happy with her rendition. For the first time, we actually get to see her smile. She looks really pretty when she's not being so arrogant. She likes it so much that she says she'll hang it in her bedroom, which, well, look, it's a good drawing, but I don't know if it's that good. At break time, Jake and Murr get out the desserts they bought at the shop the day before and offer to share them with the other children. They brought all sorts of different confections, cream puffs, crepe cakes, and even fruit tarts. Damn, if I was in Murr's class, we would already be besties. Imagine having a friend who brought macarons to class every single day. Alice seems hesitant to take one, so Murr has to make a special effort to encourage her. If this world is the same as the original novel, then that's no surprise. The Rose family are not kind to little Alice and don't treat her as their own daughter. Apparently, they often made her go without food. When Murr offers her a slice of cake, she doesn't even recognize the blueberries on it. That's so sad. I can't believe anyone would be so mean to a girl as pretty as Alice. It's a shame she isn't older and can't help her more than this. Unfortunately, the others aren't taking to the desserts the way they did yesterday. When they find out Jake bought them, Cedric is no longer interested, and when they find out that they were bought at a store in town, the Imperial siblings refuse. For once, Nina isn't rude about it. She just explains that they can't have shop-bought things, since they always have to be prepared for the possibility of poisoning. What a sad way to live as a child. But that doesn't mean the gesture wasn't appreciated. Actually, Nina spent all of yesterday ordering her cooks to make Murr some candy as return for her caramels. She left the box in her carriage, so Murr and Nina go out to retrieve it. While she's rooting around in the back seat, a wagon rushes past and almost crushes the princess. Luckily, Murr is there just in time to pull her to safety. Well, that's going to pay off later. Saving the life of the princess is sure to have a reward of some kind. Murr is really doing a good job at this whole gaining imperial favor thing. Nina shows her gratitude for just a moment before shoving the now crumpled box in Murr's face. After all, people don't change that quickly. The sweets in the box are unharmed, despite being a bit battered. And they're really fancy, too. The caramel figures are covered in gold powder. And the sweetest touch of all is that the box is wrapped in dark green ribbon, the color of her eyes. Naturally, a few days following the near accident, Murr is summoned to the Imperial Palace for an impressive dinner. The Emperor and Empress are there, too, to thank her personally for saving their daughter's life. See? I told you! I knew she'd get a reward. But actually, the biggest result of saving Nina is that the princess herself has totally changed her attitude. If I didn't know better, I would think Nina was a little obsessed with Murr. She started sitting with her at lunch during kindergarten and even wearing bright, colorful dresses instead of the dull ones from before. A week after the kindergarten opened, Murr develops a plan to make her own stones for playing kongi, which is kind of like the Korean children's version of marble games. She picked them up in the garden and grinded them down into the right shape to play with. Her maid Carrie keeps trying to take them away, but this time she manages to sneak one into kindergarten with her. As usual, only loyal little Jake is interested in her game. But that's partly because Alice didn't come to kindergarten that day, and Nina is still above playing with stones. Although she does give in eventually. While Murr is teaching Jake, she decides to join in, and soon all three of them are playing kongi. As it turns out, Nina is really good at the game. Jake does his best to beat her and ends up accidentally flicking one of the stones at Cedric's head. Anyone else see that one coming from a mile away? Cedric, who is napping at his desk, wakes up and immediately starts yelling at Jake. He apologizes, but Cedric wants to get back at him somehow. So he decides to take the stone for himself, devastating poor Murr, who worked for hours to grind it into the right shape. This is one of those times when it helps to have an imperial princess on your side. Nina steps in and tells Cedric to give it over. As soon as he realizes it was Murr's, he gives it right back with no complaints. That kid really hates Jake with a passion. I don't get it. He's so sweet. As thanks for behaving himself, Murr teaches Cedric how to play. He soon gets competitive, and since half the class are now involved, they decide to hold a competition tomorrow to see who's the best. Prince Nicholas is still not interested, which comes as a shock to absolutely no one. I'm sorry, but does anyone else think this guy is kind of irrelevant? I know he's the protagonist, but he's literally the most boring character. The four kongi players are now addicted and sit down to play in every break between their classes. The next day, Nina returns with a personal set of kongi stones made out of, yep, you guessed it, priceless jewels. Kinda makes Murr's little pebbles look silly, but it doesn't matter how nice the stones are. This game comes down to talent and talent alone. I still think Nina's gonna win, though. Cedric arrives next with Alice in tow. Murr makes a beeline straight for her and brings her in to join the game. She's pretty talented too, but less ambitious than her future fiancé, who was practicing all night with super sharp stones. Murr notices right away that he's also wearing unusually frilly sleeves this morning. He must have hurt his hands using those rough pebbles and was trying to cover it up. Not fooled for a moment, Murr grabs the first aid kit and sits him down to treat his scratches. But she's kind of surprised that no one at his home noticed the wounds. Seems like the Rose family aren't the only ones neglecting their children. Once Murr has bandaged him up, it's clear he won't be able to play kongi anymore. Devastated, Cedric slumps on his desk. It's probably for the best, though, since at least now he can't get into another fight with Jake. Naturally, Golden Retriever Boy has brought the prettiest stones of all to play with. He asked his Duke father to use magic to make them. The next day, Murr arrives to class with a healing potion that she spent a lot of money on. She couldn't stop worrying about Cedric. Despite his nasty attitude, he's still just a kid. And if people at home aren't paying attention, he won't heal properly. But when Cedric arrives, he's in even more of a mood than usual. Alice mentions something about a pet Polly, which sparks a memory from the original books. If Murr remembers right, Polly was a creature that Cedric raised as a child. Cursed by a bad wizard, he was sealed in a dog's body, gradually diminishing Polly's vitality as a divine beast. In the book, Polly died when Cedric was 7, so it only makes sense that he would be getting ill about now. Oh, poor kid. Even a little brat like Cedric doesn't deserve to have a pet die on him so young. Polly's death is what kicks off Cedric's villain arc in the future, so naturally, it's down to Murr as an adult woman in the body of a 6-year-old to find a way to change his fate. It's a good thing her best friend is the son of one of the most powerful wizards in the Empire. Coincidence? I think not. But the first step is to go and see Polly herself. Cedric agrees to let her visit his family's mansion, which is imposing to say the least. No wonder Cedric grew up as such a mean kid if he was raised in a cold-looking castle like this. He takes her to see Polly, allowing Murr to identify the sign of divinity in his ear. She does her best to explain to Cedric that his childhood pet is not actually a puppy, but a god locked inside the body of a puppy. Kind of heavy stuff for a 7-year-old, don't you think? To break the curse, they have to find a mage with great powers and ask a favor. Unsurprisingly, Cedric is not happy to hear he's going to have to rely on Jake's family. But he'd do anything for his puppy Polly, so he swallows his pride and asks to be taken to the Tion household at once. Well, would you look at that? He's not a total douchebag after all. They call Jake up on this cute little magical walkie-talkie, and he tells them to come over straight away. Jake's house is quite the contrast to Cedric's. For starters, it actually looks like a home. After a brief standoff between the two boys, Jake takes him inside and up to his father's office. The Duke Tion himself is just like an overgrown version of Jake, just as friendly and just as floppy. He starts by drawing a rune on the ground beneath Polly. It all seems very dramatic, but it's over in a flash. Polly is gone, and in his place is an egg? The Duke explains that his vitality was drained so much that Polly has returned to his original form. If left alone in a warm room for a day or two, the egg will hatch, and Polly's true form will emerge. Cedric is very grateful just to have his puppy still alive, regardless of what form it takes. So he thanks the Duke and leaves Jake and Murr to play together in his room. Jake is super excited to have Murr to himself, especially since she hasn't been around his house in a while. The whole Tion family are obsessed with her. Apparently, even his mom misses her. They go up to his bedroom where he has a magical slide. Apparently, if you go down, it takes you to a random location in the Tion mansion. What? Okay, that is so cool. Jake reassures her that the slide never ditches you in a dangerous location, so Murr tries it out and lands headfirst in a pile of hay. She is found by Duchess Tion, a gorgeous woman who is immediately delighted to see her son's best friend. Apparently, she's an avid farmer, and when Murr was younger, she used to always bring her baskets of fresh fruit from the garden. She really is a character straight out of a book. The Duchess's magical greenhouse can grow all kinds of tropical fruits. Lately, she's been growing lemons and grapefruit and promises to make Murr lemonade soon. Jake comes running over, so they explore the greenhouse together while his mother loads them up with fruit picked fresh from her trees. Understandably, Murr is sad to leave when it comes time to go home. After meeting his parents, I kind of hope she does end up with Jake. Who wouldn't want to live in a house like that? After all the confusion, she forgot to give Cedric the healing potion, but it looks like it wasn't needed anyway. When she turns up to kindergarten the next day, Polly has already hatched into an adorable pink bird. It's still a baby divine beast, so it can't talk much yet. But all the kids are fascinated, even Nicholas, who has shut his book for once. Hallelujah! It's a miracle! In class that day, no one can focus. Even the teachers are so intrigued by Polly that they can hardly concentrate. Amidst all this attention, Polly slept soundly on Cedric's desk. As you could probably predict, the boy himself is delighted to be the owner of the most popular pet in school. He's so proud of his divine beast and gets immediately jealous whenever anyone takes him away. At lunchtime, he demands Murr give him back the second he's finished eating. But Murr wants to hold the pink ball of cuteness just a little longer. So she whips out her secret weapon, the healing potion she forgot to give him yesterday. She points out that Cedric still has scars on his hands that he's currently trying to hide in his pockets. Reluctantly, he gives them over so that Murr can apply the potion and patch him up. And then she turns the favor into an opportunity by asking him to let her hold Polly a little longer since she healed him. In the middle of their bickering, Jake wanders in. When he sees the two of them together, he shuffles out of the room like a sad little puppy. He returns in a whole new set of clothes because apparently, that's how you grab your girl's attention. Just jump around announcing that you changed. I love Jake, but sometimes he's a little weird. Murr gets the message loud and clear and marches him to lunch. But while they're eating, he slips and cuts his finger with the knife. Murr goes straight into anxious mother mode, rushing over to check if he's okay. Jake insists that it's just a tiny cut, but when the maid arrives with a first aid kit, she takes it as seriously as if he'd been amputated. I wonder if Jake saw what she did for Cedric and cut himself on purpose? I hope not. He seems too innocent for that sort of thing anyway. Nina is impressed by Murr's quick thinking and first aid skills. Actually, both the prince and princess seem pretty impressed. I guess it does pay off sometimes to have adult skills as a kid. She asks Jake if it still hurts, handing him the perfect opportunity on a silver platter. He tells her it hurts a little, but would probably be fine if Murr blew on it. Nice one, Mr. Sly. We see what you're up to. After all the Polly palaver dies down, classes resume as usual. Since she helped save his pet, Cedric and Murr have got a lot closer. At least, as far as she can tell. And Gongi is more popular than ever. The kids play at every break time. Everyone except Nicholas. One time while she's watching him, Murr gets a weird look from Cedric and invites him to step outside for a chat. Jake, like the little golden retriever that he is, tugs on her skirt with his big old puppy eyes, but she promises to be right back. Once Cedric is outside, he seems a little embarrassed to spit it out. Whatever it is. He eventually blurts out that his father gave him a sword. No big confession or revelation. He obviously just wanted to tell somebody. Begrudgingly, Murr congratulates him, even gives him a little round of applause. But the way he gets all excited and asks if he can show her is kind of sweet, so she accepts wholeheartedly. He even went to all the effort of hiding it in a secret passage, which he apparently just stumbled upon by accident. He pulls out this gorgeous, shiny new blade with a green and golden handle. It's kind of cool, but who the heck gives a sword to a 7-year-old? What is his father thinking? Apparently, they start training them real young in Cedric's family. He's the earliest in his whole family to be given one, which is kind of a big deal. They have a long history of protecting the Imperial family and are known to be very skilled swordsmen. In fact, in the future, Cedric will become the youngest swordsman in history. Like any friend would be. Murr is proud of him and compliments his achievements. It seems Cedric isn't used to being complimented. Even his dad didn't congratulate him. When will we finally meet this Grand Duke Bedman? I think I have a few tips on parenting to share with this dude. Suddenly overwhelmed, Cedric starts to cry. He's worried that he'll never live up to his family legacy, that he'll never be good enough in their eyes. Murr reassures him that he's already working hard enough and has a promising future ahead of him, and she would know. She's read the damn book. For a few days after, the two of them got really close, and then, as quickly as it happened, it went away. Cedric suddenly got mean and snappy again. Murr almost thought about giving up on him as a friend until she noticed how gloomy he looked in class. She asked Alice if anything happened, and it turns out it did. Cedric's second brother, who hadn't yet passed the succession exam and been given a sword, challenged his little brother to a duel. Alice heard from the butlers of the Grand Duchess that Cedric was tricked. Since he got such a nice sword, his brother provoked him into a match so that when he eventually lost, he had to give up the sword. For some dumb reason, swordsmanship matches are sacred to their family, so no one stepped in to correct what was clearly a mean scheme designed to steal the sword away from Cedric. Not one to stand by while her friends are struggling, Murr soon comes up with yet another plan to help him out. She somehow gets a hold of a magical egg that improves the holder's skills and decides to lend it to Cedric. That way, he can convince his brother to fight him again and win the sword back. At least, that's the plan. When she gets to kindergarten the next day, Cedric is avoiding her. She soon realizes he cried himself to sleep last night, which only makes her more determined to get involved. That's when she reveals the magical egg and explains her plan. You might expect a boy from a noble knight family to have some issues about what is basically using magic to cheat in a duel, but Cedric is delighted and takes the egg right away. I guess he really is desperate to get his sword back. The moment he gets back from kindergarten, Cedric seeks out his older brother in the training yard and challenges him to another match. They get right to it. Within just the first round, Cedric manages to land a good hit. His next blow is also powerful. It forces his brother to drop his weapon, thereby forfeiting the match. Cedric gets his sword back, and the next morning is so excited to tell Murr about it that he nearly slips getting out of the carriage. Some master swordsman he is. In the near fall, Cedric drops the magical egg and it breaks on the pavement. Uh-oh, that egg was a birthday present from her parents. They'll definitely notice if it's not around anymore. But it's smashed to pieces, so what can they do? I'm not even sure magic could fix that. Cedric suddenly started rambling, apologizing and making excuses even as Murr reassures him it's all right. It was only an accident after all. He's still feeling guilty later in class and suddenly announces that he'll indemnify her. Indemnify? Who is teaching these little kids all these grown-up words? Shouldn't they be coloring in books and playing the recorder or something? Basically, what Cedric means is that he'll find a similar artifact and buy it for her. He is the son of a Grand Duke, after all. Might as well put all that pocket money to use. Well, it's a nice gesture. The sentiment is misplaced. What Cedric doesn't realize is that magical artifacts are inherently rare. No two pieces look the same or serve the same purpose. So she politely declines Cedric's offer of indemnification. Instead, he promises to fulfill any request she comes up with in the future, no matter how absurd. From then on, Cedric turns his tsundere charm on full force, always treating Murr much nicer than the rest of their classmates in his own awkward way. At lunchtime a few days later, Alice gets some juice spilled on her. Being the lovely little lady she is, Murr immediately offers to lend her one of hers and outfits Alice in a gorgeous white ruffle dress that suits her perfectly. Alice goes home wearing it, which is only natural, but she's feeling especially conscious since her wicked family would never let her wear something this pretty. You see, Alice is the second daughter of the Rose family, but she's treated like an outcast. They even call her the stain of the Rose family. I can't believe a parent could be so horrible to their own daughter. The thing with the Rose family is that they come from a long line of fairy summoners, handed down from generation to generation. Only Alice didn't get the genes. It's for this reason that she's not treated as a princess, even though by birthright she is one. She wasn't given the education of a proper princess and isn't even allowed to eat at the same table as her family. How horrible is that? The kindergarten is the first place she's ever felt at ease, and that's largely because of Murr's kindness. In return, Alice is desperate to give her a present, but being the rejected child of the family, she doesn't have many options. All she can give is a necklace made by her former maid named Bessie, the only one who was ever kind to Alice, before her father kicked her out. The next day, Alice returns the dress to Murr, worried that the evil people in the mansion will take it away from her. No sooner has she taken the dress, Murr invites Alice over to her house after class. You see, while Alice was up all night trying to think of a way to return Murr's kindness, the Marquis's daughter was hatching a plan of her own. As someone who knows the plot of the story, she's probably one of the only people who knows just how bad Alice has it at home. So doesn't that make it kind of her responsibility to get her out of the mansion and make friends? This is the first time Murr has invited anyone over besides Jake, so it's kind of a big deal. Alice immediately accepts, and Murr is delighted. That is, until Cedric somehow barges in and invites himself too. She can't exactly say no or will look rude, so Murr has to say, sure, you can come. But now Nina wants in, and suddenly Nicholas is involved. At this point, it's practically a class outing. Naturally, she can't leave Jake out, not while he's already been so jealous of how much time she spent with Cedric, so she invites him too. Now, Murr, Alice, and Jake are all sharing a carriage home together, with her two friends threatening to pull her apart. Looks like playing popular has some downsides too. Before you know it, this'll turn into an all-out brawl. Mark my words. As soon as they arrive, the house staff all start freaking out. I guess Murr could have given a little warning before the Imperial Prince and Princess showed up. Despite the fact that all her classmates have far grander and more impressive homes than she does, they're pretty complimentary about her house. Alice, for one, is impressed by just about everything, from the flowers to the butterflies. Usually able to play smart and name everything, Murr is suddenly stumped when her friends ask her the name of that particular species of butterfly. Jeez, kids sure do ask a lot of questions. Of course, Mr. Know-It-All Nicholas is quick to name it. He's just as quick to grab Murr's hand, warning her that that species is actually poisonous. That's weird. I kind of thought he hated her. All he ever does is sit at the back and read his book. They take the tour inside the house, where the kids all demand to see inside her room. Haven't these people heard of privacy? Actually, I guess not. That's a pretty accurate depiction of real children, huh? Never any boundaries when they're that young. The kids take a look around her room. Cedric, of course, makes a comment about how small it is compared to his, and Nicholas immediately asks about the kind of books on her shelf. As usual, he wants the history books, but Murr politely recommends him a fairy tale book, and to her surprise, he actually picks one up, sitting himself quietly in the corner to tear through it. Soon, the maids have prepared a tray of tea and cookies for the children. Nina is very complimentary about the service, while Cedric sort of just shoves the cookies in his mouth. Murr really wants to treat her noble friends, so she orders jelly and pudding from her maid, especially excited to introduce Alice to the blueberry one. She hands the princess a strawberry one. Reading the book has given her plenty of inside knowledge that helps her win the hearts of her friends time and time again. She even knows that Cedric's favorite is chocolate, although given how smug he looks, I bet Murr wished she didn't. turns out he's been keeping tabs on her too. When Murr accidentally takes a bite of a mint jelly, Cedric remembers instantly that she hates mint-flavored things. Although, maybe he just guessed from the look on her face. It's not like it's not obvious. Before long, everyone is flocking to share their puddings with Murr, feeding her until she's stuffed. After their frenzy is over, Nina notices a pair of socks that she's been knitting. Actually, she made them for Jake. The sweet kid is literally starstruck when she hands them over and smiles so wide his face could break. He really is hopeless, that one. It doesn't take long before all the kids are asking for a pair of socks. Even Nina, who previously said she only wears silk on her feet. Ew! Wouldn't that get kind of sweaty? Anyway, Murr can't make 4 pairs of socks from scratch before they graduate. So she decides to teach them how to knit, and that way, everyone can make their own pair. Everyone agrees, so she hands them yarn in their favorite colors. At first, the plan works perfectly. Everyone is enjoying the chance to learn a new skill and chatting happily. But then Alice asks if she can get a pair of socks that Murr made instead. And now everyone is back to yelling and asking for her handmade presents. By some minor miracle, she manages to sidestep their request by turning it into a race. Whoever knits the fastest wins. At this point, she's practically their caretaker. I feel like Murr should get a medal for how well she handles these kids. They're not exactly easy to keep entertained. Although there is one small side effect. Alice and Cedric are now locked in a fierce battle, fiancé to fiancé, over who can knit the fastest. They stay until the sun sets, when Murr tells everyone to clean up. During all of this, Nicholas has been absolutely devouring the fairy tale book and loving every second. He even asks if he can buy it off her. Murr reminds him that they're friends. He can just borrow it like a normal person. The kids are all in their carriages ready to head home when Alice comes running out. She offers Murr 1/2 of the friendship necklace that her maid gave her all those years ago, which is sweet. But Murr immediately recognizes it as the necklace she gave to Nicholas in the book. Oh no. Is she starting to mess with the timeline? Is this like Back to the Future where everything's going to go horribly wrong? I suppose the story was inevitably going to change from the moment she stepped foot in it. So maybe it's not so bad to wear the necklace, at least for now? There's not much Murr can do about it anyway, so she decides not to sweat it. When she arrives at kindergarten the next day, Cedric and Alice are still obsessed with their knitting competition, which is kind of adorable. But there are more important things going on today than just knitting. It's Manito Day at kindergarten, which means everyone gets to pick a classmate to become a guardian angel to. Basically, it just means they have to be especially kind to whatever classmate they picked from the bag. Finally, these kids might actually make an effort to be friends with each other instead of just fighting over Murr. Murr gets Nicholas of all people, which is certainly a challenge. When she gets home, she starts brainstorming ideas of what present to get him. In the end, she writes him a letter promising to read a difficult book so that she can get close to him. I don't know if I'd really call that a present. Isn't that just being a good student? But there aren't many ways to get close to someone like the prince, so who knows? Maybe this will work. The next day, she arrives early to put it in his desk drawer. Alice lays out her work for the knitting master's inspection. She's already finished one sock. It seems there's no better motivation than beating your red-headed rival and fiancé. She then brings up the fateful necklace. Murr hasn't been wearing it, so her first thought is that she didn't like it. But when Murr insists that she was only keeping it safe in case it got broken, Alice asks her to wear it every day. It doesn't matter if it breaks. She just wants her bestie to always have a matching half. If I didn't know better, I would think Alice had a girl crush on Murr, especially since that necklace is supposed to go to Nicholas when they grow up. Either way, Murr promises to wear it from now on, and sure enough, the next morning she rocks up with it for everyone to see, and Alice is delighted. Someone else also receives a friendship gift that morning. Cedric arrives to find an ornamental dagger in his desk drawer. It's beautiful, but being the idiot that he is, Cedric starts talking loudly about how it's totally impractical and useless for combat. Yeah, you dummy, it's a present. Not everything has to be used for violence. Unable to keep quiet, Nina defends what is obviously her Manito gift by proclaiming that it was forged by the craftsman of the Imperial family. Well, I guess we know who picked Cedric in the draw. While he awkwardly accepts the gift, Murr finds an envelope tucked under her desk. It's probably from her Manito, but she decides to save it until she gets home. When class is done, she opens it to find a neatly written letter on gold leaf paper. This is screaming Nicholas loud and clear. The next day, she makes an effort to hang around him, eventually forcing him to put down his book and have a chat like normal kids. And they actually seem to make some progress? He tells her he read all the fairy tales he borrowed from the Marquis' mansion, and even smiles at her and says she's funny. Now that he seems more comfortable around her, Murr asks the million-dollar question. Why does he always read instead of playing with the other kids? As the Imperial heir, he is due for early entry to the academy soon, so he's doing everything he can to prepare. And as annoying as it sounds, it probably would be hard to play with other kids when you're as smart as he is. It's kind of sad, though. He's sacrificing his youth to become a better emperor, and once he leaves for the academy, they probably won't see him again. When Murr pushes him, Nicholas gets even colder. Since they only have a year together, he doesn't see any point in getting to know everyone. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if someone said that to me, I would probably respond with something not fit for children's ears. But Murr genuinely wants to become his friend, so she decides to be sincere and reveal that she's his Manito. And if they only have a year, why not make the most of it? I'm not sure how, but that seems to get through to the prince. From then on, even though he seems uncomfortable, he makes a real effort to play whenever Murr invites him. She teaches him the game of Go, and in return, she reads with him. Fast forward a little, and it's been a week since the Manitos were drawn. It's finally time to reveal who everyone had, even though I'm sure half the class knows by now. Nina's was Cedric. Alice's was Jake. Apparently, her gift was to always leave a seat next to Murr free. I'm not sure if that's on the same level as a bejeweled dagger, sweetie, but sure. Jake had Nina and gave her a magical fan. Cedric had Alice and brought so many soft cushions for their carriage that he actually made her more uncomfortable, so I'm not sure that had the effect he was intending. As the Manito comes to an end, so too does the great knitting competition. After all their trash talk, Alice and Cedric end up finishing at the same time. So Murr declares them both winners and gives them one sock each, which they are surprisingly okay with. The next day is an outdoor learning day, so everyone gets to play in the gardens. So far, we have yet to see these kids actually learn anything, but at least they're having fun. Nina, as usual, is dressed up to the nines with a huge gorgeous hat and a silk dress. When Murr compliments her, Nina immediately offers her the hat, because she brought 5 for some reason. They offer Alice one as well, and she picks a pretty pink number. Their teacher has set up a table and seats for them outside, while an imposing line of Imperial guards watch from right behind them. The schedule for today is to appreciate the natural scenery and write a poem. They can wander wherever they like, so as long as it's within the boundaries of the guards. Jake immediately bags Murr as his partner to explore with. When she realizes he has no sun protection, she offers him her cape, putting it up around him like a hood to shield his skin. Aw, Mother Murr is at it again, always looking after people. They sit down on the hillside where Alice comes running over with a bunch of flowers in her hand. She brought them because she thought they would look pretty on Murr, so the 3 of them take one each and wear them in their hair and shirts. After a morning of running around in the fresh air, the kids quickly get hungry, so their teacher prepares what she calls a little snack, which is more like a feast if you ask me. Suddenly, the ground starts to shake, the vibrations getting stronger and stronger beneath them. They turn around to find this terrifying black presence looming over them. It's some kind of beast. And a freaking weird one at that. What is that thing? The children are terrified. Murr, for one, has already died once. She does not want to do it again. Brave little Cedric has no weapon, but yells at it anyway, telling it to go away. In the end, it's Jake who steps forward, suddenly revealing his magical abilities. Of course, in the book, it said that he can use spells from a young age, but I didn't know he could already cast them. Murr is surprised too, but given the danger of the situation, she lets him take control and tells the others to step back. Then Jake begins a chant spell and conjures a huge yellow beam of light to attack the beast. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Is this normal for a 6-year-old? That's insane! He's not done yet. After literally searing a hole in the side of the monster, Jake conjures more yellowy flames and sends them flying toward it. He is weirdly calm as he forces the beast to the ground, aiming a final bolt to finish it off. As soon as the danger is past, the kids come running over to tell him how incredibly cool it was that he literally just saved their lives. Even the soldiers are grateful. When their swords failed them, they had to be rescued by a 6-year-old. As usual, Jake is humble and doesn't claim any credit for single-handedly wiping out a 20-foot monster. He could only do it because Murr believed in him, apparently. Which is cute and all, but like, did you see those magic flames? I'm pretty sure he would have been just fine even if she wasn't there. The Imperial family sent an investigation team immediately. After all, It's pretty much unheard of for a beast to just suddenly show up in protected grounds. The investigation turns up a culprit. An aristocrat who lived near the grounds took an interest in the beast and brought it home with him, secretly conducting magic experiments in the basement. Obviously, the beast escaped, and that's how it all kicked off. As a result, the noble is punished severely, and Jake is recognized by the Emperor for saving the kindergarten class. Now, they're no longer allowed to have outside classes, but the biggest mystery of all is still how Jake learned to use such powerful magic at his age. Murr can't get it off her mind, so she goes to visit Jake one morning and asks when he started being able to use magic. Jake gets a little quiet and promises he never meant to hide anything from her. But the truth is that he's been able to do it ever since they started kindergarten. The only reason he held back on telling her was because he wanted to be able to make little flame hearts when he told her. Oh my god, this kid is just too cute. A week later, Murr is back in class and bored out of her mind since they're not allowed to go outside anymore. She invites everyone to a game of hide and seek and takes the position of tagger for herself. After counting to 60, she runs through the kindergarten like a hunter. The first place she goes is that secret passageway Cedric found, but he's not there. The infirmary contains her first victim, Alice, who got so scared hiding in the dark that she started crying. Once she's back in the light and dry-eyed, Alice reveals that Cedric went up to the second floor. They venture up to find a curtain moving suspiciously, and then Cedric gives himself away by falling off the door frame that he had climbed up to. Why did you choose such a weird and difficult location, buddy? Just hide in the corners like a normal kid. After that, the three of them struggle to find their remaining classmates. Deciding to expand their search, they head to the kitchens and ask the chefs if they've seen any kids running about. Judging by their suspicious responses, Murr quickly pinpoints a warehouse as a prime location to hide in. They enter to find a curly head of golden hair beside the sacks of grain. Nice one, Jakey. Real subtle. Now there are only the prince and princess left. Murr has searched just about everywhere she can think of, so she decides to go back to the source, headed for the classroom. Just as she expected, the Imperial kids are right where they started. Probably for the best. I'm not sure their egos could have handled if they were found first. A month passes, and Cedric goes away on a trip with his family. He returns with souvenirs, one for each of his classmates, which is uncharacteristically nice. I wonder if he got Jake a bottle of poison. It turns out he bought everyone the same gift, a small ornamental dagger and a ring, each with their names engraved on them. He forgot Murr's at home, so he invites her to come round to visit that day after class. That way, she can check in on Polly too. When Murr arrives, she is greeted by Sir Elox, one of the older knights who she met on her last visit and who takes care of Cedric like a brother. He thanks her for putting up with his master and lets slip that Murr is really Cedric's only friend. Ouch, he really is like an older brother. They also run into Cedric's oldest brother, Satan. Normally, he's busy at the Imperial Palace, but today training ended early. Cedric introduces Murr, who starts gushing about how cool it is that he's an Imperial Knight. Even though he probably thinks the same, Cedric gets jealous that she's complimented someone else, especially his older brother, who has the position he wants so badly. After a mini tantrum, he suddenly storms up the stairs, pretending that everything is totally fine. There's a scuffle from inside the room, and then Cedric emerges in what appears to be a butler's uniform that is clearly too big for him. Feeling a little trapped, Murr assures him that yes, he is very cool, and yes, he looks better than his brother. I guess he hasn't changed all that much over the last few months after all. Now that he's done showboating, they finally go to see Polly, who is a little bigger but exactly the same level of cuteness. The main thing that's changed is Polly's communication. She can speak perfect English and even remembers Murr from before she was released. Murr sits down to tea with Polly and suddenly remembers the reason she came. Cedric still hasn't given her the souvenir, and at this point, I'm starting to think he just straight up didn't get her one. When Murr asks, he fetches her gift and finally hands it over. Her ring is really pretty. The gem is kind of shaped like a shield, which is cute. Murr makes a joke that she could use it to block an arrow, and Cedric answers that he wouldn't let one get close enough to hit her. Aw, he does have his moments, little Cedric. He's been training much harder since the day the beast appeared. He's still a long way off from tackling magic monsters by himself, but it seems to have lit a fire in him to become a talented swordmaster. While they're talking, Cedric's other brother, Servin, bursts in. He reveals the shocking fact that today is actually Cedric's birthday, and then weasels his way out of getting him a present. Okay, that's kind of a douche move. But now Murr feels terrible. She had no idea it was his birthday, and she didn't even get him a gift. Not the type to let this sort of thing slide under the rug, Murr immediately demands his chef make a cake and asks for 8 candles. Once all the items are assembled, Murr announces her plan to throw him a birthday party. It kind of seems like he's never had one before. He keeps saying how the whole thing is pointless, but I bet he secretly loves it. She lights the candles and sings happy birthday to him all by herself. Is it just me, or does this make anyone else kind of sad? Why aren't his own family throwing him a party? And speak of the devil, in the middle of her song, Servant and Satan arrive, having been alerted to the party by their maid. They seem to find it strange, since it's not a tradition in their house. Murr has to explain the whole ritual of candles and blowing them out after the song. They join in, sing together, and everyone wishes Cedric a happy birthday. Good, that's more like it. Now they get to do Murr's favorite bit and cut the cake. It's kind of sweet. The boys don't really get together like this. Satan even goes as far as to suggest they hang out more often. Murr ends up staying for dinner and gets even closer with the boys. Even days after her visit, Servant keeps asking Cedric when she's next coming around. Our girl is popular with just about everyone these days. Looks like she'll have her pick of husbands when she grows up. That is, if Jake doesn't fight them all off first. Back in class, Nina invites her to come shopping on a very high-end fashion street after kindergarten. She invites Alice too, but she says she can't go. Something about going to the theater with her family, which makes me suspicious. As if her evil parents would ever take her to see a show. When they head to the shopping street, both Nina and Murr receive a lot of attention from passing nobles. It turns out the Imperial Kindergarten has been a hot topic of conversation recently, so it's no surprise people are staring. They go into a dress shop, but as soon as the owner starts showing Nina his designs, she gets in a mood and storms out. Murr thinks it's because she didn't like their style, but actually the princess was angry that they ignored her. Murr! The moment they arrived in town, everyone was paying attention to Nina. Honestly, I kind of thought she would have loved that, but it seems Nina is more selfless than we realized. Finally, they arrive at a store that treats both the girls equally, so of course, Nina does the only reasonable thing and buys every dress they have. She's made it her personal mission to fill Murr's tiny wardrobe with as many dresses as their servants can carry. After hours of looking through designs and trying on outfits, Murr is exhausted. I know Nina is trying to be a good friend, but honestly, if it were me, I'd have given up by now. But Murr is polite as usual when they say goodbye, getting into their own carriages. On her way home, Murr suddenly spots Alice out on the street by herself. She's all alone. There are no guards, maids, or family members with her. So Murr demands they stop the carriage and gets out to ask her what's happened. She's literally shaking, so they wrap her up in blankets and get her inside the carriage to warm up. That's when it all comes spilling out. Alice tells her the truth about her family and how they hate her for not having any summoning talent. For the first time in a year, they said they wanted to go on an outing together, so Alice was really excited. And when they arrived at the theater, they pushed her away and went in without her. Are you kidding? That's horrible! Why would they bring her along just to ditch her in the street? I really hate these people. Because of her big heart, Murr is deeply moved by this. She keeps Alice company while she cries in the carriage, but even after she returns to her family, Murr is still trying to figure out a way to help her friend. That afternoon, she's having a nap when suddenly an idea comes to mind. In the book, Alice will one day grow up to be the best fairy summoner in the Empire. It's not that she doesn't have the ability, it's just suppressed. Probably because of how horribly she's been treated. In the story, Alice eats a fruit from Fairy Island, and that's what awakens her potential. Fairy Island is a mystical place shrouded in secrecy, but its fruit are surprisingly common in the Empire. It's not commonly known to bestow magical properties, so no one really eats it. Apparently, it's kind of gross. But that means Murr should have no trouble getting her hands on one. No trouble at all, actually. A quick walk behind her house reveals a little sickly-looking plant with fairy fruit just hanging off of it. Now, all she has to do is convince Alice to eat it. Although, that might be a stretch. I mean, look at that thing. Who would want to put that in their mouths? In the end, her friend is so loyal that she doesn't take much convincing. But not long after eating the fruit, she faints. I'm sorry, but even at their age, they should know better than to eat something that looks so poisonous. Like, come on, Murr. What were you expecting? So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!